All right. Yeah. If there's nothing major this week, I guess we could just talk a little bit about things we have in here. So the first one I had in here was so we have the underscore admin label, a special one that puts the ceph.conf and the admin keyring on all the hosts. We also remove it or remove those files whenever you take away the label, or if those doesn't have the label. I think it even might even include if like you put it in there yourself and then you remove the label. I don't know if it differentiates those cases properly. I have to test it. Um, you see that there is a tracker. Somebody is having an issue with it in one of the tests they're using. Um, I'm pretty sure it's being caused. I didn't actually go verify it, but I'm pretty sure the reason that they're finding the admin keyring is gone in their test is that the host does not have an admin label, and we're probably removing it from them. So sort of, I don't know. I don't remember exactly what was said when we first implemented this, but I think the idea was that if you don't want it to be an admin label anymore, we'll just remove it for you. So that sort of makes it not an admin host. Um,
Mhm.
and it sort of works conceptually. That like, oh, the admin hosts have the keyring and stuff, and the other ones, those ones maybe they're less secure or something, so we'll get rid of them. Sometimes it makes sense to remove them there. Um, but at the same time, you cause problems like this, where maybe it's getting removed if someone just didn't have the label on, but they actually still wanted it there. Maybe we are doing too much.
I guess my question is that the only thing the admin label does? If 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 it does more stuff, perhaps what people want is the other things. I don't know because I'm not really familiar with what it
It just
does.
does that, I'm pretty sure. I think it is just deploy the Ceph.conf and that keyring into the
Yeah,
Etsy Ceph directory. I don't think it does anything else.
yeah. It makes me wonder why they're hitting the issue then, because if that's all it does, why are they removing the label?
I didn't look in super detail that the tracker. I probably should have. I was guessing is that maybe it was some kind of upgrade test because I know on upgrade the label isn't automatically added to any of the hosts. Um,
Okay.
say if you bootstrap on an older version and then you upgrade, then none of the hosts will have the label.
Okay.
That they got fixed, I think.
Yeah, okay. I would agree. Like if my thinking is if the label is the thing that caused the keyring to appear, it should in fact remove it. But if, like you said earlier, if it's removing some other artifact that got put there by a different process, then yeah, maybe that's probably the distinction we need to make.
Okay. I guess then the follow-up question is then how do we know if we put it there?
Right. Yeah, that's a good question. Um,
'Cause even if like say we had originally put it there, if somebody tries, well, I guess if they write it and they still have the label on, then we should be overwriting it. That's what we
yeah.
typically would do. But
Yeah, I mean,
I
there's
don't
a
know.
couple of things. Like, I don't know if we're putting it in a directory that we control, or is it stuff going into like
It's in
other
Etsy Ceph.
directories? Yeah.
And I guess I think we tend to put it in var lib Ceph now as well. We had that whole thing where we Rado added that stuff to put the key rings in there as well.
Hmm.
Um, but I don't know. So like I guess the situation I was thinking of with like the removing it and stuff is if we take the label away and then you sync. Well, at that point we know that as we're removing the label that like it is probably us who wrote it there. But like if say somebody like immediately after writes a new copy of it, like a different one, I don't know. I guess how do we then differentiate at that point? Like, oh, now this one is it's not
Hmm.
ours or whatever. It seems sort of difficult to do that unless we. I mean, I guess we could have like a generated by Ceph ADM line and try to check for that, but that sounds kind of clunky. And
Yeah. A thought that popped into my head, and it's a very half-baked idea, so I'm not sure if it's useful, is a file that contains the hash of the file. So like the SHA-256 hash, that's like I, Ceph ADM or I, Ceph Orchestration, put a file here and its hash was bleh.
okay,
And if you
yeah,
tinker with that, then you deserve all the pain in the world because the file name is specifically telling you, you know. the file with this hash is managed by Ceph ADM.
Yeah. Because I guess we would at least then know that this is the exact version that we deployed, which is what we wanted. At least
Yeah,
for the
again,
conf that works.
half-baked idea. I haven't thought it.
Yeah, that could be weird. That's probably, I guess, if you're going to try to detect, like, oh, is this the version of the file that we put there or not, then that's probably how you'd have to do it. I'm not sure. I'm thinking with the admin keyring, I would think we could do the same thing, although that really shouldn't change that much. It'll always be the same, but we can't really write in like a. I don't think we're allowed to just write in like a created by CephVDM for the keyring file. Like it has a certain format. Um, but we could still technically have a hash of it, and then move it as well only if it matches the hash. I guess you could generate another one on your own, put it there if you really wanted to.
Anyway, I'm not saying we have to do it that way. It was just
Yeah, but it kind of is like because we sort of said before that sort of like the ideal behavior is that we would want to only remove it if we put it there, and then you remove the label. Um, but it's just yeah, what is the best way to have to implement that? But I'll probably have to go look at that actual tracker as well and figure out exactly what's going on in that test.
yeah,
How they
because
ended
you
up in a situation.
think that they would just, if they need the keyring on all the hosts, they either leave all the hosts with the label or add them as needed.
But I thought I assumed they'd probably like written it there themselves or something, because like maybe it was they wrote the test before the admin label existed or something, and then we were just removed it or something. But I feel like that's been like behavior for a while. I don't know why this tracker popped up now, but I guess I'll just look closer at what's going on there. But like in general, it would be nice to still be able to remove them. It's just we have to make sure 100% that it's the copy we wrote there recently, not like somebody else's stuff. Okay, so we'll have to just do a little bit of looking into that. Maybe the hashing thing is the way forward for that.
Yeah, at least what again thinking about it more, like the canonical file that tells us whether we're in control, where we, when meaning Ceph orchestration, is the file with the hash in it. And the file with the hash in it just tells you that it's not been tinkered with by someone else. I still think it's okay to say if that file exists, we can still manipulate the contents, but it's the I don't know what the name of it again. Let's say managed keyring managed by orchestration dot JSON or something. If that file's there, it means that the system has been opted into having the keyring managed by Ceph ADM.
Okay, so we have like some files, and maybe it'll have like I guess we'll say that we're doing it, and then maybe it'll have the hashes of the file or something as well. It could
Right.
put that in there.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then we could at least make sure they haven't edited them. Although I guess if they have edited them and we still have the label on, we still want to write them again, and then probably redo the hash.
Right. But we could also emit a warning or a log that says, "Hey, content wasn't what we expected it to be."
Yeah, like say like, oh, CephVDM, we're overwriting this because right now it says we're managing this.
Right.
Turn that off if you want. We can do that, yeah. So I guess that means if they have the label on, we're willing to overwrite the file if it's there, and it's different. But if we have the label off, we only touch the file if the hash matches exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. It might be worth writing this one up on an Etherpad page or doc or something.
I'd probably put a little
Just
bit of notes in here.
right.
We could give it maybe its own thing, but I feel like it's not enough stuff to get. I think we just put it in here. Let's try to remember where it is. Depends how long it takes me to get back to this. But then that tracker is open with the failed test. I assume it'll probably go up a little bit in priority.
Yeah.
Somebody's being affected by it right now.
Right. And the other issue is what to do about the legacy hosts that are already there. So, if the key rings are there and the labels are there, and then people expect the stuff to get removed, but we don't have this magic metadata file.
Yeah,
I
well, the
don't know.
file's not there. We have to assume we didn't write it, and then we can't remove anything
Right.
unless they add the label, in which case then we now go back to
Yeah.
writing.
So the other thing is we may, I don't know, want a command to go in and opt all your hosts with the label into being managed.
Wait, what? So I didn't follow exactly what that was.
So say in the upgrade scenario, we only want to manage file hosts that have this metadata file, but you're upgrading. Let's say you already have the admin label on 3 nodes out of your whatever 24 node cluster, because those are the ones you've specifically set aside for management. Now we upgrade and we're only going to remove this file, or we're only going to manage the stuff if we see the file. Since we don't already have the file, because this is an upgrade scenario, um, I remove the label, it won't remove the keyring. But if that's the behavior I want, um,
I would think that if you already had the label on, can we just make our own hash file at that point and just say, well, you have the label, so I feel like this. I feel like the sort of the behavior when the label is on shouldn't change at all. Like we still want to just
okay,
overwrite the file always and like manage
okay,
it the way we say we do. It's really just when the file the label is not there. I think it's when we want to be careful when we're removing something.
all
There
right.
is
So
some.
new version Y would say I'm going to clobber whatever you have there, and I'm going to put down the metadata file.
Yeah.
Um, and then if you delete the label and the file is there, it will remove the file and the metadata file. Sorry, the keyring file and the metadata file. Then if you put something there manually, nothing will mess with it. But if you add the admin label back, it'll go, I'm going to stomp on whatever you had there.
Yeah.
Okay, that might be all right. We'll definitely want to document this so people understand the
There's.
workflow.
I could look what the current. There's a section about this label and what it does.
Mm-hmm.
We go find it. See what it currently says. Find host management. Labels, special host labels. Yeah, so there's a section. I'll link. What in the other patch? Right above that. So yeah, so in that section there's an admin label subsection. Yeah, I kind of forgot. Yeah, there's the other key rings. You can specify key like miscellaneous key rings. Will actually come up. I kind of forgot they even did that. I don't know when we left to use that. You can also do that typically. They do end up all going in Etsy stuff. Yeah, but it doesn't say too much. It basically just says distribute them there. I was going to be more explicit about the fact that we will also probably overwrite them.
Yeah.
We have this label on. We're sort of assuming this host is for like this purpose,
Right.
like
Yeah,
running
you've
the shell and running
designated.
this.
Yeah, you've done because it might be like an auditing thing. You might say, okay, these 3 hosts out of my cluster are things that you can log into to use. But if we see you people logging into the other ones, we're gonna like have to like take action. It'll be in our alerts, and people will be like, is someone misbehaving? Blah
Yeah.
blah blah.
And by having the Ceph conf, because you need the Ceph conf and the keyring in order to SSH in and actually run anything useful, or in order to have the shell up and run anything useful. Otherwise, you're just gonna get that
Right.
like rejected message every time. I'm assuming you wouldn't even find anything because if you don't have the Ceph conf, you can't even find the monitor addresses or any of that. So if you have only those files on those like sort of protected admin hosts, then all the other hosts shouldn't be able to do too much. You affect the daemons on the host, but you can't do much to the whole cluster.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. I
let's
mean,
watch
it
out
all,
this
all
section.
depends on how people want to manage their stuff. And depends on how much we want to tell them how to do it. But
Yeah, I mean, I guess the thing is, if they don't want it, that's maybe by having it not remove them when the label's not there is good is that if you don't want it, then
Yeah.
they can always if you just don't put the label on, won't touch anything. That's kind of what's happening. It seems like. Well, we'll touch it if we have the metadata file there that the hash matches. That would never happen if you're doing it manually.
Right. Right.
So it does entirely to do whatever you want manually. And then if we are going to manage it for you, we'll have this hash file to make sure we do remove it if you don't want to see an admin host anymore.
Right.
Seems like good. We just have to figure out the implement, I guess, this hashing and all that.
Yeah.
And I will have to go look at the test just to make sure this actually exactly why things are failing or what situation is going on. But
Yeah, I just looked at the tracker issue too, and it's not obvious that admin label to me. It's not obvious.
yeah, I'm just thinking because I think that's the only time CephADM ever would remove the file. I don't
Got
know
it.
if there's any other situation we would ever do that. And also because I happen to have been messing with NFS stuff, the HA NFS stuff, with the failover and all that, and I was actually running into some issue. Maybe another reason not to be removing things where there was a host that was offline and the server loop was having issues where it was trying to remove the admin keyring from the offline host. And it was not working, obviously. But I could see it doing that. But yeah, let me just write that down real quick. All right, that's probably good for that topic. That's sort of what we're going to do going forward. Bashing thing. See. So next thing I had on here was about that Keep Alive the NFS. I don't think anyone from the OpenStack team has had a chance to look at it. I see you did review it. I kind of missed that you reviewed this.
Oh yeah, it was probably a quick. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Oh
Okay.
yeah, I
Just
remember.
about the.
It was. I saw that big, hard to distinguish what the differences was block.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. They were pretty close. I think. I only did just copy paste it and then like change it. So.
Right. Right. It was. I could tell that's what I could tell that is what you did, and that's why I wanted to comment on possibly refactoring the bulk of it into a function where it's a little bit clearer what the differences between the two paths are.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, I
Because
can kind of tell
there's
from.
more repetition than just that. Like even the other block, there's like every single section puts calls like register service for NFS. Like it always does that. So why is it in every single if block? That kind of thing.
Yeah. That'd be some of that. Yeah, I mean, I'm still gonna have to go back and do a bunch of stuff with this patch because this was all sort of just like get it to a working state so someone else can test it, and then I'll.
Yeah.
But
So
it also.
I just looking at your Etherpad. If you want, I can reply right in the Etherpad too. My gut feeling, and of course take that as with a grain of salt, is keep the virtual IP flag and then have a Boolean flag like keep alive dash only to tell it don't deploy. Because the other scenario does deploy keep alive. It's keep alive and HA proxy, right?
Mhm.
So I would go with virtual IP and then an additional dash dash keep alive only to tell it don't deploy.
So we ask them to do both. Like you say, like I want ingress, but I want to keep alive only as well. So you put like both of
Yeah.
them, and you have your virtual IP.
Alternatively, I'm always a fan of like a mode flag, whatever you want to call it. It could be theme or mode or approach, and that would be a multi. It would be a strict. The right hand side would be like using the terminology of argparse. it would be choices. You can't put an arbitrary value there, but you could do dash dash mode equals HA proxy or mode equals keep alive.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, it also the nice thing
And you
about
can
that is
call
it
it what
allows
you
you
want,
to.
like ingress mode or whatever.
Yeah,
I'm
it probably
just
would be like ingress mode actually. That's probably what I would
yeah.
do it.
I think Ceph works. I think there's a Ceph choices thing in the Magic command line
Yeah, I remember
generator
that seeing
thing.
that in there, but I don't know. I never tried to actually do one of those. I know we have things that are enums. We
Sounds
could
like
actually make
fun.
an enum class if we wanted to. But I've never tried to have to use a Ceph choices directly. I don't even know how that would go.
Yeah, so yeah, it's definitely there in the like the C++ code, but you're right. I haven't seen it in the Python either, but even if you don't go with the approach, it might be worth looking up how that might be done.
Yeah. If we did, we could even because I know like, I was saying before the enums. I know that's what we do a bunch of times in StuffIdiom or the orchestrator module. I think as like some enum classes, and you have to give me something that's like in the enum list, or it's not like allowed. Um, and then I think we're just manually checking it against the enum, make sure it like makes sense, and
Yeah,
like
cool.
raising errors on our own. But we don't use it built-in step choices. So I guess we can try to find out how it works. Maybe it would be
Yeah,
better.
and because I'm already interested in that generic manager stuff, I'd be willing to help a little bit with that aspect of it. Because
Yeah, yeah. If you find out how to make
having
a step choices work in
looked at all
Python.
that manager util.py stuff and how it tries to basically go from the function signature to the again, I don't know what it's called. We'll call it Ceph args for now. The Ceph args um, expression that gets turned into the JSON uh, manager command, magic JSON thingy. I need proper names for this, or I'll just kind of call everything a thingy.
You can make your own names at this point. I don't think anyone else named it.
Yes, that's
By
true. I don't
default.
think there's so many people active on the project that might care.
You can write the docs for it, and then you get to decide all the names. I mean, we can do that. Either that, and if we couldn't get it to work as, we could just go back to an enum like we've done elsewhere.
Yeah, yeah. That's definitely true, but it would be nicest to get it expressed all the way to the CLI.
Start noting these things. So we're going to reuse the virtual IP flag.
Yeah, I would definitely use that one because that just keeps people's cognitive load lower because they're like, what do I put the virtual IP in? You always put it in virtual IP. Then
Yeah,
if you want a different deployment strategy, you tell it, deployment mode, deployment strategy, deployment scheme, ingress scheme, whatever you want to call it. Naming is hard, usually because there's too many choices.
let's call it the ingress mode flag for now. Maybe we'll
Sounds
change the
good
name
to
later,
me.
but I think
Yep.
that name makes sense. I think
Usually
I'm
the
going to
first one
default
you
to,
write down is good enough.
yeah, probably not going to get any better. I assume we'd have it defaulting to both of them, like proxy and flag build.
It should default to the current behavior, which would be um, whatever it is.
Proxy and keep alive.
Yeah,
We have another mode, keep alive only mode, I guess.
yeah.
Uh,
And then if you want to be extra careful, like if you could put some error checking if you pass virtual IP, but you also pass ingress mode equals none or something.
I
Or
assume if
like
you don't ingress mode equals none, you just not pass the ingress flag.
right, but that's what I'm saying is if you wanted to be extra cautious and to like double check that people aren't accidentally misusing things, um, and that would definitely be just in the manager function. You just do a double check. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying we have to. I'm just saying if we want to.
If you specify an ingress mode at all, but you have don't have the ingress flag, I feel like it's
Right.
gonna end up raising an error.
That's good. Yeah.
I think that's what it does. Yeah, right now it does with the virtual IP. You have a passive virtual IP, but no ingress flag. It just errors out as soon as you did something wrong.
Yeah. So we just need to make sure that the mode jives with that.
Error, yeah.
Like if they supply mode but don't supply the other stuff, that should also.
Right. Good. We'll have get rid of the keep alive IP flag. Have virtual IP. Have this ingress mode flag. Figure out somehow either implement it either with a Ceph choice if we can, or an enum if otherwise. And then you'll need a keep alive. I guess keep alive only mode, and we'll need a name for the other one, I guess, as well.
Yeah.
I don't know what we're gonna call that one,
Right.
but well, I'll have some name for that one as well.
You just literally call it HA proxy. HA proxy always includes keep alive. I don't know. That's just
I don't really know for sure if there's ever a world where I would want an HA proxy and not a keep alive. Uh,
right.
but that was why I was thinking maybe I don't want to name it just HA proxy, but
Sure.
I don't know if it's actually really. I don't know. I'll have to come up with some other name for.
The other thing you can do is go back to the original commits or the design doc and say, oh, what did Sage or whoever start this project call it?
Call HA proxy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, call the, you know, as opposed to the non just NFS servers, did it have a name? Like if they just called it HA proxy, then I would go with just HA proxy.
It was just called HANFS, I think, the whole time.
Okay. Yeah, we can call it that
We could just yeah,
HA-NFS or yeah.
like mode HA or something.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if HA is too short. Or,
Well, nothing's too short. The question is it misleading? Because is the other mode just as HA, or it's like it's slightly less HA? What does HA mean?
yeah,
HA proxy is a little specific. It's telling you an implementation detail, but it's not wrong. It's accurate.
I don't. Would it make sense to just call the mode ingress because it's like the full ingress service we have? And it sounds weird to say like I want dash ingress mode ingress. Like I also don't
Another
need
option would
the
just be the word default. Could do ingress mode equals default.
do that too. But that might be the best because it's the old behavior, so it gets to be sort of brought in as default mode.
Yeah.
I had the very obvious statement in the docs that default mode will be default behavior.
Yeah.
So that and looks like there's one other thing I was going to write down here that I know. Default behavior. Yeah, the default mode, we have an ingress only mode. It will default to default mode. So
Yep.
I
And
think
you
even
can
sort of helps a little bit
explicitly
with that
ask for
aspect.
default.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you don't give one,
A
you're going
little
to get default mode.
self-documenting. If
Yeah.
you say, give me the default mode, you get the default mode. If you don't ask for anything, you get the default.
Yeah. It actually worked really well for that aspect because we're going to have this as the default. So I think there was something I forgot to write down here, but I think we have enough in here. I think we know what's going on. We have this mode flag. I'll cover this. That way we can extend it later. There ever is a world where we have a third version of this.
Yeah, I mean, imagine some like fancy IP tables or NF tables based thing where you could actually have similar behavior to the HA proxy stuff that they were talking about that they couldn't use for whatever reason. You're like, oh, as a third mode.
I do remember them talking about the idea because it was this solution was for like one NFS with like a virtual IP on it, and I think they were talking about like
Yeah,
oh we have like n NFS daemons and we want like all that stuff and
right,
maybe there will be a mode where we have to do some IP table stuff on our own. So
right.
that's possible as well. That's good. Yeah, so this is like a more future proof. naming scheme as well. Instead of having to add two new flags get added every time, uh,
Right.
get a new one.
Yeah, it's just, if you've ever never heard my rant about booleans, it has something partly to do with this kind of thing. Is like if you know you're only ever going to have two things, a boolean's okay. But usually, um, I tell people if there's a possibility you're going to add something in the future, do like an enum basically, whether it's a command line or a config file on disk or whatever.
Yeah, definitely better for if you extensibility, especially
Right,
because
exactly.
it's annoying to change the flag after, because then you might break past stuff.
Right, or you get flag proliferation if you keep having to add booleans. And the issue with flag proliferation is unless the flags are truly all 100% orthogonal, you have to start remembering, oh, I've set option A and B, and then I don't set C. How do they interact? If you have an enum, you can basically name each mode, like foo plus bar plus baz, and
Yeah,
and
it's always explicit. They have to say, I want this set of things, and this has the exact behavior that I've set that way.
right,
I don't allow, and there's a bunch of combinations I can just not allow them by default.
yeah.
I don't have to have a
And if you
million
want to be
pages checking it.
sneaky inside your code and basically have those values mapped to bits in an integer, and you pull them out and turn them on features on, whatever, great. But as far as the user is concerned, you have a bunch of named modes that you can pick one.
Yeah, yeah, I think this is definitely the way forward because it's still like a work in progress PR. I can still just hopefully whoever uh, one annoying thing is that I was asking other people to test it. I did put this like example of how to do it, which of course has the old file. I'll have to keep updating that comment start every time. But
Yeah.
other than that, it seems like it's the way forward.
Excuse me. And after this afternoon, because I'm curious, I'll try and spend a couple of minutes to see how the manager to Ceph Args translation thing could potentially do generate a Ceph choices.
All right, I don't think I'll get to this today anyway. So even if you want to wait, I know you usually do stuff on like Thursday. I'll
Yeah, that's
probably
my dedicated afternoon. Tuesdays afternoons are free for me to do whatever the heck I want.
okay. Yeah, if you have the time, do it. But yeah, I don't think I'll be getting back to this stuff until probably later in the week. So,
I'm curious, and I don't have well, I have priority stuff, but it's all waiting.
all right. Yeah, if you have time, then yeah, it'd be cool if we could figure out how
Well,
to
like I
get into
said,
this
I'm
after.
curious. It's fresh in my mind, and I'm curious. So
All right. If that covers that topic, looks like we
yeah.
are there. The other one I put on here, there's not really anything to discuss with this one. I guess I just put it in here. Say it's something we probably should do. We were talking about this in the CLT call about the archiving notes. They had a problem there with the other pad without the crashing because they had never archived it
Hmm.
ever, so it had like years of notes in there. Um,
Hmm.
I looked at here. I was wondering if we were ever archived. And I found out we actually do have one for 2020 notes. It looks like at the end of 2021 we never did that. So we
Yep.
have
No, I
2021 and 2022.
I think that's a great idea personally. Have some Google Docs for other projects. I wish people would do that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because Google
Well,
Docs loads even slower than Etherpad, and it takes forever to load them if they're like more than 4 or 5 pages long, at least in Firefox.
yeah. I know Etherpad does crash a lot if you get it too big. Like ours is not getting close to that level where it would be doing that. You know, it is over 3,000 lines. But, it can crash
I think it's just
eventually.
better for organizational purposes too. That way you're not like, oh, you do an in-page search and you find something from like 2 years ago. You're like, what I'm looking for.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll have to figure out. I never actually made a new Etherpad. I'll have to figure out how to do that. But once I do that, I'll just copy everything from last year to there. I'll
It's
probably put the link to the
funny.
top as well.
I have because I created the compile Ceph ADM one, but I don't remember what I did. It was definitely easy. Don't worry about it because I did it and I don't even remember how.
I would hope it's not super hard to make another
Yeah,
Etherpad.
I think you basically click one button and give it a title, and that basically creates a new URL.
I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do that. I'll put the 21 and I'll probably put some links to the top. I'll have we have like an Orchestrator PR section and that will have like a
Yes.
archive like section instead of having it at the very bottom of the file where it is now.
Agreed.
Hopefully That'll be good. All right, cool. I guess that was it. All topics I had. I don't know, do you have any other things you want to bring up here? Do you want an update on the compile stuff? Any of that stuff?
I'll just mention you may already be aware because I believe I CC'd you on it. I did reach out to Mike over email rather than the PR directly to see about his opinion about squashing the PRs. I think I'll wait a week. So if by next Monday he hasn't replied, I hope everything's okay with him. But I'll just take that as a tacit okay. And worst case scenario, what I'll do is I'll probably archive the branch under a different name, V2 or Ridge or something, and I'll have a version with the unsquashed PRs if people ever need to refer back to it.
Yeah. Yeah, you could even make a new PR. That PR is like one of the oldest ones we have open. I don't think anyone would complain if you like took all the stuff and made a new one. Even.
If you prefer that, I would definitely be enthusiastic about that.
Yeah. I can't imagine why it would be a problem. Like they want you to use the code, so it's just be moving the code to your branch and opening a new PR. It's annoying to me just for like very minor reason that I have to go to like the third page of open PRs in the Ceph label to go find it. It's that old.
And the fact that the PR it's long enough that it also takes time for the page to load. I've noticed.
Does it actually?
At least for me. Again, Firefox, so I don't have the Chrome optimized super. Everyone only wants to target Chrome these days. JavaScript.
Oh yeah. Well, I don't know because maybe for me because mine hides a bunch of the items. Like it has.
Mine does too. Yeah, it's most PRs I work on are like maybe 5 or 6 comments and then they get merged. This is just I notice it. I can feel the difference.
Yeah, I mean the thing is there's 81 in the conversation, and this hiding things that it's hiding 217 items. So.
The only longer ones I've seen are a couple Golang ones, like issue threads.
I don't think there would be an issue with even opening a new one or whatever. We could leave this one here for now until we get confirmation we can close it. But we could also subsequently have a different one that's newer.
I'm very much willing to be flexible, but I also don't want to sit on it too long. So.
Yeah, maybe I'll try. I know when I was sharing stuff with Mike earlier, I did his personal email. Maybe I'll CC that email. CC's checking that one. But then, yeah, if we don't get anything by the end of the week, then we can probably open a new PR in your branch, and then do it that way.
That sounds reasonable to me.
All right. So it seems like that's everything I'm going to talk about today. I think it went pretty long, went 40 minutes.
Yeah, we had some decent design level discussions, so that always takes a while.
All right. Good. I guess I'll see you the one here. See you on Thursday.
Yes. I do plan on going in on Thursday.
Yeah. Other than that, I'll end here.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.